Welcome to another chapter, Life Processes, Chapter 5 of Biology. Ever wondered how your body keeps you alive every second? From breathing and digestion to transportation and excretion, these amazing activities are called life processes. In this chapter, we will explore how plants and animals get energy, transport materials, and remove the waste from the body to survive. So get ready to uncover the science happening inside you right now. Your heart never takes a holiday, but yet you just keep on blaming your heart. Your lungs work non-stop. Your stomach becomes a food processing factory. Let's see how everything works. Inside the body, the heart pumps blood like a DJ. जोर जोर से खास occasions पर ढोल भी बजता है. Lungs breathe, brain thinks. अब बोलोगे, wow, really never knew that. The brain processes memories, dreams occur, and information learned during the day gets organized. Kidneys are the serial cleaners. Food eaten during the day continues to get digested and absorbed. Cells repair damage, muscles recover, and growth hormones are released. The body maintains proper temperature while sleeping, and we think that we are just sleeping. So, जैसे factory में electricity is needed for the working, in the same way, the body also needs energy to perform all these activities on a daily basis, 24 into 7. Our body is basically the most dramatic masterpiece ever created. Thank God. If the weather becomes slightly hot, I am sweating like a leaking water bottle mom. A weather is little cold, emergency, nose waterfall activated. One mosquito bites us and suddenly we are doing breakdance while sleeping. The environment affects our body all the time. Hot surroundings make us sweat to cool down, and the cold weather gives us shivers to produce heat. And polluted air makes us cough like an old bike engine. Even sunlight changes our mood, and so the exam season also does mysterious stomach pain. The radiation and the sunlight, the UV rays can damage the DNA and the cell structure. The pathogens like the bacteria, viruses, and the fungi can attack the cells and disturb normal functioning. Aging is the gradual wear and tear over the time by the breakdown of the organized structures. So the body continuously repairs, maintains, and replaces old cells. Lot of work is being done, and the body performs all these activities all the time. These essential activities that keep the organism alive are known as the life processes. And food is the magical fuel that keeps the body running all day. Without food, oxygen, and water, we cannot survive. The main life processes are nutrition, getting food for energy, respiration, releasing energy from food, transportation, carrying the materials inside the body, and excretion, removal of the waste products. Without life processes, there will be no energy, no repair work, no growth, no survival. So basically, life processes are basically the survival tools of the body. Living organisms continuously perform maintenance activities. For all these activities, energy is required, and this energy cannot be created inside our own body by the body on its own. So, organisms obtain it from outside sources in the form of food. The process of taking food into the body and converting it into usable form is called nutrition. Food not only provides energy but also provides the raw materials needed for growth and repair. Now, we also know that living organisms are mainly made of carbon based molecules. Their food is also mostly carbon based. The abundant substance that make up the body of the living organism contains the element carbon because carbon is a very special element. It joins with other carbon atoms, it joins easily with hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen to form large and complex molecules. These molecules further become the building blocks of life in the bodies. Different organisms use different methods of nutrition. Cows eat grass, which contains complex substances like cellulose, which is very hard to digest. Humans eat complex foods like rice, pizza, burger, meat, and whatnot, which contains carbohydrates, proteins, and fats that need proper digestion. So, depending on how simple or complicated the food is, organisms have different nutritional processes and digestive methods. A tiny amoeba is happy with a simple food, but humans want more complex food like pizza, burger, cold drink, and dessert. Food taken into the body cannot be used directly. It must first be broken down through a series of chemical reactions to release energy. These reactions occur inside the cells of the body. One of the most important reactions involved in oxidation, where oxygen helps in breaking down of the food molecules. The energy released during the breaking down of the food is then used for all the life processes inside the body. In this way, nutrition and respiration, that is the release of energy, work together to keep the organism alive and function properly. How do we tell the difference between what is alive and what is not alive? When a cute dog suddenly decides to chase you, you definitely know it is alive. When living things move, we know that they are alive. But when the organisms are in the sleeping mode, we see them breathing and we know that they are alive. But what about the plants? Plants grow, breathe, reproduce, and respond to their surroundings. Touch or touch me not plant, and it instantly folds its leaves. Like, how dare you touch me, bro? So, yes, plants are definitely living organisms. They are just calm, silent, and less dramatic than humans. We know plants are living because they do all the things just in a very slow mode, like they are on a zero point 0.5 speed mode. Living organisms are highly organized. They are made up of cells, tissues, and molecules. Due to environmental effects, this organized structure keeps getting damaged from time to time. To stay alive, the organisms must continuously repair and maintain themselves, and this requires constant movement of molecules inside the body. So these processes involve non-stop movement of molecules inside the cells. This ongoing chemical activity is called metabolism, and without it the organized structure of the body would collapse, leading to death. Hence invisible molecular movement is essential for life even when no visible movement is seen from the outside of the body. Now let's discuss the types of nutrition. First is the autotrophic nutrition and second is the heterotrophic nutrition. Auto means self and trophic means nutrition. Organisms who prepare their own food carry on the autotrophic nutrition. It is the mode of nutrition in which organisms make their own food from simple inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water using sunlight and energy. Green plants, algae, and some bacteria show autotrophic nutrition. Plants prepare food by the process of photosynthesis. Chlorophyll is present in the leaves and it traps sunlight, which is used to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose, which is the food. Oxygen is released as a byproduct. Cuscuta, pitcher plant, mushroom, monotropa, and orchids. These are the different types of plants which are not preparing the food by photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, there is absorption of light energy by chlorophyll, conversion of the light energy to chemical energy, and splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen, and reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. Reduction of carbon dioxide means converting carbon dioxide into carbohydrates like glucose by adding hydrogen using the energy during photosynthesis. And these steps need not take place one after the other immediately. For example, the desert plants take up carbon dioxide at night and prepare an intermediate called malic acid and they store it. During the day, the desert plants keep their stomata closed to prevent water loss. This malic acid, which is stored at night, is broken down inside the plant cells to release carbon dioxide. And this released carbon dioxide is then further used in the daytime with the help of chlorophyll sunlight to produce food and convert it into glucose. So, this is the basic method by which the desert plants obtain carbon dioxide. The site of photosynthesis in the plants is the chloroplast. Photosynthesis mainly occurs in the green leaves of the plants because they contain many chloroplasts. The site of chloroplasts is the cell of the green parts of the plant, the mesophyll cells. Now let's look at the variegated leaves experiment, which is very important and it proves chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. Take a variegated leaf, a leaf with green and non-green patches, such as croton or money plant or coleus. Keep the plant in dark room for 3 days so that all the starch gets used up by the plant. Now keep the plant in sunlight for 6 hours so that the green parts containing chlorophyll starts making food by photosynthesis and this food will get stored as starch. Now pluck a leaf and first trace the leaf with the green parts and then dip it in boiling water. The leaf is dipped in boiling water to kill the cells and stop all chemical reactions in the leaf. After this, immerse it in a beaker containing alcohol. Carefully place the above beaker in a water bath and heat till the alcohol begins to boil to remove the chlorophyll. Removing chlorophyll makes it easier to observe the color change during the iodine test for starch. What happens to the color of the leaf? What is the color of the solution of alcohol? The leaf loses its green color and becomes pale or colorless because chlorophyll dissolves in alcohol. And the alcohol solution turns green because chlorophyll from the leaf has mixed in the alcohol solution. Now, after adding iodine solution, the previously observed green parts of the leaf turns blue black because starch is present there, and the non green parts do not turn blue black and remain yellow brown because starch is absent there. So this proves that chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. Now what are stomata? Stomata are the tiny pores present mainly on the surface of the leaves. and are surrounded by the guard cells, and the function is the gas exchange and transpiration. Opening and closing of the stomata is done with the help of the guard cells. When the guard cells absorb water, they swell and the stomata opens. And when they lose water, they shrink and stomata closes. So, stomata helps the plants to breathe and control water loss. Activity 5.2 to show that carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. Let's see the activity. Take two healthy potted plants which are nearly the same size, keep them in a dark room for 3 days. Reason to destarch the plants, as the plants would use all the stored starch in the dark to maintain its life processes. Now place each plant on separate glass plates. What you will observe. Place a watch glass containing potassium hydroxide also by the side of one of the plants and cover both the plants with separate bell jars. Use the Vaseline to seal the bottom of the bell jars to make the airtight environment. The potassium hydroxide is used to absorb carbon dioxide. Potassium hydroxide reacts with carbon dioxide present in the enclosed air inside the bell jar to form carbon dioxide free environment for the experiment. It absorbs carbon dioxide from air and converts it into potassium carbonate and water, which prevents photosynthesis. This was the main reason for adding potassium hydroxide. Now keep the plants in sunlight for about 2 hours. Pluck a leaf from each plant and check for the presence of starch, as I have already told in the previous activity. Do both the leaves show the presence of the same amount of starch? What can you conclude from this activity? From this activity, the primary conclusion is that carbon dioxide is very much essential for photosynthesis. The leaf from the plant inside the jar will test negative for starch. It won't turn blue black with iodine solution. This is a negative test for starch. Nitrogen is another essential element used in synthesis of proteins and other compounds in plants. It is taken up in the form of inorganic nitrates or nitrites, or it is taken up as organic compounds which have been prepared by bacteria from atmospheric nitrogen. Certain bacteria convert atmospheric nitrogen into usable compounds. This process is known as nitrogen fixation. Examples: Rhizobium bacteria. Our mom is not an autotroph because she doesn't do photosynthesis, she doesn't have chlorophyll, she doesn't need sunlight to cook food and carbon dioxide to cook food, and she depends on proper food like we all eat. Now comes the heterotrophic nutrition. Organisms that cannot make their own food and depend on other organisms for nutrition are called heterotrophs. Human cannot make their own food by photosynthesis. As I already told, mom is also a heterotroph. Depending on plants and animals for nutrition, cows eat plants for energy, lion depends on other animals for food, and so cow is example of herbivorous heterotroph and lion is the example of carnivorous heterotroph. Now types of heterotrophic nutrition are the holozoic, saprophytic and parasitic nutrition. Holozoic nutrition. It is a type of nutrition in which an organism ingests solid food, digests it, absorbs nutrients and elements, eliminates the waste. Example: humans, cow, dog, even amoeba. They all are ingesting the solid food. What is ingestion? It is the intake of food through the mouth. The food we eat contains large and complex substances like starch, proteins, and fats. Our body cannot absorb these directly. So, the digestive system processes the food in several steps. First is the crushing of the food. Different kinds of food pass through the same digestive tract. Teeth crush and grind the food into smaller pieces. This makes the food soft and increases its surface area for digestion, as the digestive enzymes can work faster and more efficiently after the food has been converted into a bolus. What is a bolus? It is formed, which is a very small rounded mass of chewed food mixed with saliva that you swallow. It is the first major step in the digestive process after you have finished the mechanical breakdown of the food in the mouth. Then mixing with the saliva is done. The lining of the alimentary canal is soft, so the food needs to be moist for smooth movement. Salivary glands secrete saliva in the mouth. Saliva wets and softens the food, helping in swallowing. When we see or eat tasty food, the mouth waters because more saliva is being produced. Now, food molecules are complex and too large to be absorbed into the blood through the alimentary canal. So, it has to be broken into simpler molecules. Therefore, they are broken into simpler molecules by the enzymes, which are the biological catalysts. For example, starch is getting converted into simple sugar. Proteins get converted into amino acids, fats into fatty acids, and glycerol. So, one important enzyme is also present in saliva, which is salivary amylase, which starts the digestion of the starch in the mouth only. The alimentary canal, it is a long, continuous muscular tube through which the food passes in our body. It is also called the digestive tract. It starts from the mouth and ends at the anus from where the excretion is carried out. The main parts of the alimentary canal are mouth, esophagus, food pipe, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. The walls of the alimentary canal contain circular and longitudinal muscles. These muscles contract and relax in a wave like manner to move the food forward. This is known as peristalsis. And how peristalsis works? The muscles behind the food contract, in front of the food they relax, and this creates a pushing action that moves the food through the digestive tract very easily. The peristaltic movements occur throughout the gut, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. And what is the importance of peristalsis? It pushes the food forward through the canal, it mixes the food with digestive juices, it helps in digestion and absorption also, and it also removes the waste material from the body. From the mouth, the food is taken to the stomach through the food pipe or the esophagus. The stomach is a large organ which expands when the food enters it. The muscular walls of the stomach help in mixing the food through thoroughly with more digestive juices. The inner walls of the stomach contains the gastric glands. These glands secrete three important substances: hydrochloric acid HCl, pepsin, a protein digesting enzyme, and third is the mucus. The hydrochloric acid makes acidic medium, which activates the enzyme pepsin. Pepsin works best in the acidic conditions only. Hydrochloric acid also helps to kill harmful germs which are present in the food. If any germs are present in the food, will get killed by HCl. Now, pepsin digests the proteins into simpler substances called the peptides. Later in the small intestine, other enzymes break peptides further into amino acids which are absorbed. And mucus. Since the HCl is very strong, it could damage the stomach lining. So the role of mucus is to protect the inner lining of the stomach from the acid and the digestive enzymes. When the adults complain about acidity, they usually mean a burning sensation in the chest or stomach caused by excess stomach acid or the acid moving upward into the food pipe. The stomach normally contains HCl for digestion, and sometimes too much acid is produced if the stomach is empty for too long or you ate too much spicy or oily food, or maybe the acid flew back into the food pipe. This causes irritation and a burning sensation called acidity. The food does not leave the stomach all at once. At the end of the stomach, there is a ring like muscle called the sphincter muscle. It acts like a valve. It controls the movement of the food or the partially digested food from the stomach into the small intestine. Food is released very slowly and in small amounts. This allows the proper digestion and the absorption in the intestine, in the small intestine. So the sphincter muscle acts like a valve, and it basically controls the quantity of the food released in the small intestine. After leaving the stomach, the food enters the small intestine, which is the longest part of the alimentary canal. Kyun? Because small intestine is highly coiled and it is fitted into the abdomen in a very small space, and it is the main site for digestion and absorption. The small intestine is the main site for absorption of nutrients because its structure is specially designed to absorb digested food efficiently. Because of its very long length, it is very long, it is highly coiled, giving more time and more surface area for absorption, and also due to the presence of villi on the inner walls of the small intestine. The villi also helps in the absorption of the food. Why does the length of the small intestine differ in animals? In the herbivores, animals like cows and goats, they eat grass which contains cellulose, and cellulose is very difficult to digest and it takes more time for digestion. Therefore, they have long small intestines, so food stays longer for complete digestion. And the carnivores like the tigers, they eat meat which is easily digested as compared to the cellulose. So they have a shorter small intestine because the digestion will take less time. The small intestine is the place where the digestion of all the major maharathi of the food components take place. Carbohydrates, proteins, and the fats is completed. Food coming from the stomach is acidic because of the HCl. For digestion in the small intestine, this acidic food must first be made alkaline, another chemical reaction. Here comes the role of the bile juice from the liver. The liver produces bile juice which is stored in the gallbladder, and the enzymes working in the small intestine, especially pancreatic enzymes called trypsin and lipase, they work best in alkaline medium. अब इनको alkaline medium चाहिए. If the food is too acidic, these enzymes cannot function properly. So the function of the bile juice is to make the food alkaline. It neutralizes the acidic food coming from the stomach and creates an alkaline medium needed for the pancreatic enzymes to work properly. Also, the emulsification of the fats is done. The fats are present as the large globules, making it difficult for the enzymes to digest them. Bile salts break large fat globules into tiny droplets. This process is called emulsification. And then this increases the surface area for the enzymes to act on the fat, similar to how the soap breaks the grease into tiny droplets. So the fats are acted upon efficiently by the enzymes after this. The pancreas secretes pancreatic juice containing important enzymes trypsin, which digests the proteins into smaller peptides. Lipase breaks the emulsified fats into the fatty acids and glycerol. Now, role of the intestinal juice. The walls of the small intestine secrete intestinal juice containing enzymes that complete the digestion. Proteins get converted into amino acid, complex carbohydrates into the glucose, and fats get converted into fatty acids and glycerol. After digestion is completed in the small intestine, the small simple nutrients are absorbed into the body. The inner lining of the small intestine has many tiny finger-like projections called the villi, as I have already told. Then the food arrives at villi and it is absorbed. Villi greatly increases the surface area for absorption, kind of like increasing the number of sponges for soaking up the nutrients. Each villi contains many blood vessels. These blood vessels absorb digested nutrients and carry them to all the body cells efficiently. Thus, the complete digestion of the food is done in the small intestine and absorption also is carried out. Now, the absorbed nutrients are used by the body for again producing energy, growth and formation of new tissues, and repair of the damaged or the old tissues. Now, role of the large intestine. Not all the food gets absorbed in the small intestine. कुछ ना कुछ रह जाता है. The unabsorbed material enters the large intestine, and the large intestine absorbs excess water and some salts from the waste material, converts the remaining material into semi-solid feces, which is the waste material, and it is ready for excretion. Removal of the waste. The waste is removed from the body through the anus. The opening and closing of the anus is controlled by a ring like muscle called the anal sphincter. It regulates the release of the feces or the waste material from the body. One question which I asked in the beginning is that plants utilize only 1% of the solar energy, which what they are receiving from the sun. In the next video, I will be discussing with the other parts of the heterotrophic nutrition. Thank you for watching.